obviously, is the lead play in our offense.
We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet, get an isolation with the linebacker. We tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here. Try to run this play in the alley.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. Text us, 865-658-5824. Join alongside Tim live in Green Bay. We've got Jacob on the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. And, of course, Emilio was in here just a second ago, but he must have had to go to work or something. But by the way, Jacob, I loved your comment earlier today. I think that's right around the time that the stream went down that you said, Amelia, you notice how when Clayton says he's at work, you can actually hear equipment in the background?
Yes.
Funny how that works, right? So anyway, there you go. Want to apologize for this morning. Guys, I would love to pull a Devondre Campbell and say it was everyone else's fault, but unfortunately it was my fault that the stream did go down. When I went to leave the stream, it asked me to end the stream. I didn't recognize it. I must have hit yes, and that's what happened to the stream this morning. But you guys handled it like absolute pros, Tim and Jacob. Man, y'all crushed it. Same thing with Carly. Did an excellent job. So great show this morning. As far as the information on YouTube, they have basically not given me any information. The people that I've spoke to, they don't know exactly why the monetization is down. We're trying to get to the bottom of it, but I want to apologize, everyone. I know everybody was excited about the PTA posse and all that. We'll do something different if we have to. Hopefully they can get it back up and going and see exactly what the problem is. I think the main issue you run into is like AI and stuff, to be honest with you. It triggers copyright stuff, this and that. They confirmed with me, yes, you're allowed to use copyright material. You just can't monetize it, which means add revenue, things like that. So that's the issue we're faced with right now, is talking to customer service that can't give me an answer and then awaiting an appeal so I can speak to someone who can give me an answer. So there you go. M. Smitty in the chat says Emilio had to go and get ready to hop into his race car bed. He's changing the oil right now is what he's doing, I bet. Exactly what he's doing. So just want to take a second, give a quick shout out before we get started here to our sponsors, Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packers Total Access Live, Wisconsin-based since 1992, specializing in Packers tickets. They are Wisconsin's largest ticket source and have offices next to Lambeau Field as well as in Milwaukee. You can click on the link in the description of this video that will send you to theticketking.com, where you can register for free as a customer and get yourself ready for that May schedule release. When the Packers schedule does drop, they're going to be able to save you a ton of money on Packers tickets this year. So make sure you take advantage of that, gang. Again, that is theticketking.com. Go register for free as a customer. They are the official ticket provider of Packers Total Access Live. We appreciate them supporting the show. So we're going to get into some good stuff. We got Eric Wilson, obviously, back with the Packers. We've been talking about that for a couple of weeks, waiting for that news to drop. We're going to have Paul Bretl on here at about the halfway mark. So we're going to try to get through some information before he jumps on. Really excited about talking to Paul. So, yeah, and then you got this guy right here jumping back in, of course.
All right. And we're off.
There you go. All right, so now he's ready. Jacob, you got anything you want to open with before we jump into Eric Wilson? And I've also got Keisean Nixon's salary cap numbers.
Oh, man, there's a bunch of stuff that I was listening to today. Off the top of my head, one thing that I thought was interesting, I was listening. Do you ever listen to the Athletics podcast?
Sometimes.
What was it? I'm sorry.
The Athletics podcast.
I haven't. No, is it good?
Yeah, it had Dane Brugler on there today, and I can't remember who the other guy was. There's a couple other ones, but they were talking about how in this draft, there's a possibility that 8 to 9 offensive linemen will be taken in the first round, and that it's going to be they say it's a really deep draft as far as like the front end talent, first and second rounders, but I think it's an all around deep draft. We've talked about some of the later round guys that we've highlighted, some of the really late steals and that kind of stuff. But it's interesting to see that now a lot of if you think about maybe 5. They're saying 4 or 5 quarterbacks could go in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
If it's true that 8 or 9 offensive linemen could go, that means that a lot of quality talent is going to be falling to different teams, especially like us sitting there at 25. Who knows? It could be a lot of options.
Absolutely, man. It's all about how you look at the draft, and I've been following the draft for quite a long time now. Really, I've been following it closely since 2010. Like I told you guys, when I really got kind of obsessed with the game of football, especially at the pro level. And when I see low RASs, today, and when I see and hear about, hey, there's going to be this many quarterbacks taken, my mind immediately shifts to how does that affect the Packers, right? What's the GM's perspective on those things, changing and constantly evolving? And when I hear 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round, I get really excited because that's going to give you probably maybe at least 1, maybe 2 options to trade with someone if they're trying to get into the first round to grab one of those, whether it's the 4th or the 5th quarterback. But also it means 2 great players are going to drop down the board and probably fall right in your lap as well if someone trades above you. So I get really excited over that stuff. I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to the RAS moving around, I look at Tyler Nubin and I go, hey, let him fall right in our lap later on in the draft, dude. Ryan did a pod earlier today. Great job, reading Bob McGinn, where he kind of talks to different scouts about, certain prospects. And of course they're anonymous. And even if they weren't anonymous, they're still going to try to send some smoke screens. It is definitely lying season right now is what they refer to it. But I love what they said about our boy, Tyler Nubin. Like he sounds like everything that they described was just like, except for Scout 3, as Ryan.
Scout
3, that was hilarious. Scout 3 sounded like a weirdo, didn't he?
He really did.
Yeah. And then when Ryan started getting cracked up because he was trying to read, every time, it was like 3 sentences in a row. I was out mowing my lawn this afternoon. I kept going, that's what she said. That's what she said. That's what she said. So anyway, if you guys haven't listened to that pod, go check it out. It was awesome. So, but I love what they were saying about Tyler Nubin, man. And him being that box safety, which is what Jake Shavink has talked about this entire time. You got to give him credit for that, man. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Tim? As far as the news that's dropped around the draft, like Jacob was talking about, as many as 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round is just wild, right?
2 thumbs up. Bring it on. Get them out. Get them early. So Goody can cook, man. That's my attitude for sure. But talking about Tyler Nubin, man, I'm not dissuaded at all by the RAS score, and I hope Goody isn't either. I hope he's still on the radar. But for all we know, he was at Bama's Pro Day, taking a look at some guys. There's a lot of different ways we can go in this draft, and to sit here and think we don't have the audacity to make predictions. We're just trying to look at everything that's out here and what's happening to see if we can get in the ballpark and maybe be less shocked when these draft picks start coming up in a few weeks here. What are we, about 5 weeks away from the draft, something like that?
Yeah, it's
right around the
corner, man. It's going to be phenomenal. And obviously the players will actually report, I think, around the 15th of April. So we're less than a month away from players kind of getting in there and doing some workouts. And probably not going to be a whole lot of news break around that, but still it's exciting to see those guys getting in and out of the building for sure.
Well, that's true. That's true what you said, though, Clayton, about line season. I was listening to it was Femi and Lombardi on the shuffle, and he was saying he said that, like Marvin Harrison said, he asked 9 teams at the combine if they wanted him to work out like solo or whatever, and every team said no. And Lombardi said there's no way that 9 teams all agreed on one thing to say no more workouts for Harrison.
Yeah.
Like they can't even all agree on, a kickoff rule or, prices and anything like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's full blown lion season. There's no two ways about it. Chris in the chat says sitting back with multiple TVs in the living room watching the NCAA tourney, but making sure to check in with some Packer talk. Appreciate you, Chris. Good to see you in here, buddy. Man, it looks naked in here without everybody's PTA.
I know.
Right? Sucks, but it is what it is, man. That's life, right? Comes at you fast. So,
all right. Can I highlight something real quick?
Yeah, man.
So we talked about this the other day that Jermaine Burton had a visit with Green Bay. So Shavink must be commenting on that right now. Also, today I was listening to the PFF podcast, And the guy, I can't remember his name, the opposite guy, Sam Monson, said that Jermaine Burton was his 4th overall ranked wide receiver, and that he is just crazy shifty, that he's really good with the ball. He's got really good ball skills. He's aggressive. The only issue apparently with him is that he does have some like off the field issues that I guess are more like stemming on the field. Like he's really a little overly aggressive. I think he's gotten in some trouble for some late hits or cheap shots. So I don't know. The Packers lately have seemed to be a little more willing to take on guys that have a little bit of, egos or tempers or a little bit of a history. Guys like Brenton Cox and Quay Walker and that kind of stuff. But it would be, I mean, I don't know. I just, for some reason, they said that he's amazing. Like he's one of the best wide receivers with the ball, after the ball, with the yak and all that kind of stuff. So
Gotcha.
it could be, I can see it actually happening. So Shavink could be willing this into existence.
Good stuff. Yeah. And I was trying to find him here on my big board. And again, this isn't completely up to date. It's shuffled around a little bit. This is the last screenshot I grabbed of it, but I've got him in the 132 spot. It looks like what really drug him down on my board was a couple of things. The two things that stick out the most as far as pulling him down on my board would be his PFF grade from 2022 and the 33rd team ranking is what brung him down. If you remove those two things, he'd be sitting somewhere around the 60 spot. So the Packers could be looking at him, somewhere in that 60 to 70 range, right? Or, it could be something that they're looking at him a little bit later too. So there you go. And again, the board isn't finished yet. So I'm excited to see all the visits be complete too. We add that to the information as well. So,
right.
Yeah. All right. But Jake Shavink always in here trying to get some wide receiver talk going. That's just the way it goes. Always trying. He might be the reason the channel got hit, to be honest with you. Got to take a wide receiver in the mock draft the other night, and all of a sudden everything goes all to hell. That's what happened.
YouTube said no way. I do have a super chat here, Clayton, for you. From
Super
Bates.
chat.
We got a super chat. He said, "How am I supposed to support Emilio now?" Thank you, Bates, my man. Exactly. What are we gonna do? We're gonna have to figure something out. And Eric Sutherland's in the same boat. He's over here. That gold star was all I had. I'm absolutely devastated and feeling cheated.
Yeah, you guys just send Emilio some pesos. All right, send a couple pesos down the mail. So there you go. Let's talk about Eric Wilson for a second. Obviously, he posted this on his IG. I love that he broke the story too, by the way. He just put another year with the Pack. Let's go. Right. Nice. And I listen, I don't want to sound like a weirdo, but I'm going to sound like a weirdo for a minute. Have you guys seen that dude's arms? Like, he is ripped, bro. Like, he's a monster. So I pulled.
That's what she said.
Yeah, Clayton's over here. Can we take the left sleeve off? I need to see what's
unbelievable. A bunch of toxic, what. All right, so I pulled up his PFF grade, and I was kind of surprised. Like, I know he finished with a 67, and you think, okay, what does that look like throughout the year? Obviously, with minimal snaps, I say minimal snaps, he had 123 defensive snaps, but in week 1, a 70.9 grade, right? If you jump down, let's just read them all off: 70, 64, 66, 67, 68, 66, 60, 75 against the Giants, and then 52 against the Minnesota Vikings for a total grade there of 67 from last year. That kind of surprised me, guys, to be honest with you. Like, we didn't include him in the starting linebacker spots, right, when we were talking about everybody's PFF grade. He actually graded higher. He is technically our highest graded linebacker from last year, but you've got to mention there was less than 200 snaps. So that was pretty wild. And then, of course, we always talk about special teams. And, of course, he's just a stud on special teams, 76.6 with 345 snaps. So what do you think about that, Jake? Did that catch you off guard, man, as far as his PFF grades of him playing, actually playing the linebacker position? It looks like he did play middle linebacker, weak side linebacker. So he's more of a Mike and more of a Will type rather than a Sam. Obviously, he's not really rushing the passer. What do you think about those PFF grades, though, man? I think you get him back this year like they have, he's liable to compete for a spot on that starting roster, man.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really surprised. That's been his MO since he got into the league. I remember when he was even with the Vikings, that was one of his things too, that he was really good at special teams, but when he did get his shot, that he made the most of it when he actually got to play linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if maybe the change in the 4-3, if something with Halfley coming in will help him maybe unlock a little bit of that, that actual pure linebacker inside of him, because that'd be cool. That'd be really cool if he could step up and, contribute more of that. It looks like Ben Holden here. Is that real? That Eric Wilson's RAS was a 9.48.
Holy cow, dude! I'll go fact check that right now. That's wild if that's true. Tim, what do you think? You're Mr. Defense. You excited to have Eric Wilson back?
Oh my gosh, yes! Excited is an understatement. I'm a huge Eric Wilson fan, and I was getting a little nervous for a while because I thought this might have happened maybe a week or two ago when we were getting some other news. But I'm happy we have it now. Dennis Shook hit it on the head here in the chat. I mean, we'll never forget that absolutely crucial fumble recovery against San Francisco in the playoffs. So, and that's just one of the things he brings to the table. Like Jacob said, I mean, he's 29 years old, so he's got plenty of tread left on the tires, but he's not a super young guy. So he's experienced. And I'll tell you one thing, you're getting full on pedal to the metal every single time that guy's got a helmet and pads on and he's on the field. He is going balls to the wall every play, every down. And that's what you want out of a linebacker. And I'm just happy he's still a Packer for at least the foreseeable future for now. And wouldn't it be great if he stepped up? You know, we talk about needing depth at that position in that linebacker room.
Yeah, awesome.
Man, if he could be a good, second, third guy on the depth chart type of deal, maybe, and really, start in a pinch if we need to, just like we talked about Zay McDuffie being that kind of guy that, a good fill-in guy, but also can give you some starts. I think if we get that out of Eric Wilson too, I feel real good about this linebacker room, especially considering that Goody's going to cook in the draft and bring us some young talent as well. So a lot to be excited about.
Definitely. Emilio, look at this RAS card, man. What's crazy is the only thing that drug his RAS score down was his size, right? I mean, 6 feet, 230 pounds. His RAS for his height was 4.32. His RAS for his weight was 2.68. Still scored a 9.48. He had elite composite speed grade, good agility grade, and elite explosion grade. So the signs were always there, man. That's why you can't get too caught up in the whole size thing when it comes to this RAS stuff, right, Emilio?
Well, that's exactly it. And his height, you can't change that, right? But his weight, we can change. We can always add muscle to him. They got top of the line programs, all that. But a 9.48, man. And you know what else I love is the way he tackles. He had the one bad game against Minnesota, right? I think it was the last game of the year. And besides that, or 17, he wraps up. That's why he plays special teams. You're not going to put a guy on there that, unless you have to, unless you're, down to the scraps, you want people that can tackle, that want to play, that want to hit, right? You need that in a middle linebacker. You need that in somebody that's going to be in the middle all the time. So that's really nice to see.
Definitely, man. No doubt, man. That's really cool, though. Who was it that brought that up again? Do you guys remember who mentioned that 9.48? Or
Ben.
Ben
Holden right here.
Cool, yeah. Thank you so much, Ben. Appreciate you bringing that up, but again, the chat always saving the show here. So we finally got the cap numbers, the contract details for Keisean Nixon as well. Pretty cool stuff. So this is the cap hit for 2024 on the roster. Again, Devondre Campbell's number should change after June 1. It's not going to play any kind of role right now, to be honest with you. But you'll notice you're going to see our boy, where's he at here? Keisean Nixon down there, right? And if you look at his cap hit number over on the far right, it's the second column from the right. $3.9 million is his cap hit for 2024. Okay. Dead cap attached that year is $6.5 million. Obviously, they gave him a $6.5 million signing bonus. Now, when you look at how it's structured amongst the cap hit for 2024, you've got a $1.1 million base salary. You've got the $2.1 million signing bonus. You got a $500,000 roster bonus, a $200,000 workout bonus. And again, this is a 3-year deal. So if we pulled up the entire details of the contract, here's how it's listed. I'll just kind of read it at the top, and then we'll talk about the cap hits and when you can get out of this contract if you need to. It says current contract. Keisean Nixon signed a 3-year, $18 million contract with the Green Bay Packers, including a $6.5 million signing bonus, $6.5 million guaranteed, at average annual salary of $6 million. In 2024, Nixon will earn a base salary of 1.1, a signing bonus of 6.5, and a workout bonus of 200,000, while carrying a cap hit of 3.9 and a dead cap value of 6.5 million. Now, if you look here at the potential out, right, 1 year, 8.3 million with 4.3 in dead cap. Focus on 2025. When we climb into 2025, his cap hit is now going to go up to 6.8 million. Okay. So it's essentially going to double next year. So the other thing to keep in mind here, if you look at how his contract is structured, if you were to cut him next year, you've got 4.3 in dead cap. Okay. So you could cut him and free up, what would that be? 2.5 million in cap space if you cut him next year. Not that you would want to, but again, Tim, we always talk about a 3-year deal is a 2-year deal, right? Look at 2026. Base salary 4.3 million, signing bonus 2.1 million, roster bonus 500,000, 200,000 workout bonus, cap hit 7.1 million. The dead cap attached, if you move part ways with him in 2026, will be 2.1 million. So you could free up $5 million by cutting him in 2026. It's essentially a 2-year deal with that minimal of a cap penalty that would be attached. I think they're going to let him play it out, obviously. And if he's doing great, if he continues, being one of, if not the best kick returners in the game, especially with this new rule, that gets voted on next week, obviously, at the owners' meeting, the new kickoff rule. If they do apply that and Keisean comes out and just lights the world on fire, we got him under contract for 3 years, Jacob. 3 years, bro. And again, if he's still playing great at 29, you could tack on a couple voidable years if you need to free up cap room. That's assuming Jordan Love may break the bank when he gets his deal, most likely coming this May. But what do you think, Jacob? That's pretty cool. 3-year deal, man. We got it. We got our kick returner locked down, bro.
Yeah. And it also gives, I don't think that we've ever had this time of year where we're actually excited and waiting on the results of a owners meeting, because like you talked about, that's going to be pretty huge to figure out whether or not that new rule gets approved or not. Because if so, that could be a really good kind of chess move for the rest of the league. And if it doesn't get approved, then I don't know. I hope that Nixon's really good at the slot corner.
Yeah,
definitely.
I have a feeling that we might see the hip drops not get approved, and then the kicking one, the rule change does get approved, is what I'm hoping happens.
Dude, how are you supposed to, you're telling me basically with a hip drop, you have to tackle them before they pass you. That's basically what that means. Because once they pass you and you go to wrap up and, pull them down, or you just got to grab onto their jersey and try to tug them down or something.
All right. Yeah, I don't think it'll get approved either, Tim. I don't. And you hit the nail on the head there, Emilio. I feel sorry for the defensive players, man. What the heck are they supposed to do? You can't aim high, you can't aim low. If you've got a heart, you won't aim low.
Right.
You can ruin someone's career.
You can't crack back anymore. What are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. I agree with Bates here. He said, I'd rather have the new kick rule versus the fair catch stuff. It ruined kickoffs. It really did. So I completely agree there for sure. Let's see here. Joe in the chat says the new rules for kickoff will get approved. All 32 special teams coaches are on board. And again, you haven't heard anybody, be vocal about disagreeing with that rule. You've heard the whole players union basically come out and go, nah, we ain't agreeing to that tackle rule. Ain't going to happen. Right. So we'll see how that shakes out though, man. I'm excited to see Keisean Nixon with that new rule change, if it does get applied, and to see him, again, if he comes out and he plays at the level he did last year in the slot, that's a nice floor. Yep. But we can go look for that slot corner in this draft, right? And I feel like it's definitely deep enough. There's no two ways about that. I was listening earlier did you listen to Ryan's pod, Jacob? Did you get to hear that earlier where he was breaking it down with the scouts?
Yeah, I did.
Did you notice that he didn't mention Javon Bullard? Bob McGinn didn't mention him. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I was waiting to hear something about it, but it never came. Yeah.
It kind of surprised me, but did he also say it was the top 50? Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did. I'm over here hammering.
Yeah, it was the top 50, and there was only what, 3 safeties in the top 50, right? It was Nubin.
They had
Cole
Nubin.
Bishop.
Yeah, Cole Bishop. They had Kalen Bullock in there too, right? Am I thinking right?
Yep.
Yeah. And what's crazy is I've got Newbin at 28. I've got Bullard at 62. I've got Kitchens at 82. And then I got Bullock at 101. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, though, man, to kind of see how this all shakes out there at the safety position as well. But, yeah, not hearing Javon Bullard, I was like, I wonder if Jacobs is mad as I am. So, speaking of mad, this man right here is going to come in here and clean everything up for us. He's going to add some intelligence to this show. He probably listening offline going, I can't handle these knuckleheads. They have no clue what they're talking about. We're going to bring in the great Paul Bretl. Paul, how you doing as you get a drink? Perfect time.
Having me. It's good to be back.
Yeah, man. It's so good to see you, bud. We've been trying to give you a break, not a whole lot to talk about. And I'm like, I'm not going to hound him every week, but thought we would reach out to you and see what you had going on. How's life been treating you, bud?
All good. No complaints on my end. Hope the same back to you all as well.
We're doing great, man. We're doing great. We're just driving each other crazy in here.
That's the off season, right?
Yeah, exactly. We wanted to bring you in and just kind of test the waters here a little bit and see what you thought about this off season and maybe going into the draft with some needs and things like that. I know the guys have got some questions for you. I'll just start with Jacob. Jacob, if you want to, man, what would you like to ask Paul here? We'll just go around the horn real quick.
Yeah, appreciate your time, Paul. So I read your article today, and you were talking about how the Packers have kind of established themselves of having two bigger backs, and I was wondering just what your thoughts were if they are to kind of draft a back in this upcoming draft here. Would they try to maybe get away from that bigger back frame and do somebody like a Bucky Irving or a Jalen Wright or a Frank Gore Jr., or do you see them sticking with that bigger kind of mold that they're in now?
Yeah, so I appreciate the question. And so as I was going through that article, part of the conclusion that I came to is I think the bigger backs that they have right now is a bit happenstance. When they found out that, all right, this isn't going to work with Aaron Jones, we got to move on. They got one of the best backs on the market in Josh Jacobs. And while he doesn't have that A.J. Dillon, stature at 5'11", 247, I think Jacobs is more 5'10", 223. He's a physical runner. And in bringing A.J. Dillon back to the mix, he's not guaranteed to be on this roster this season. His cap hit, if on the team, I think is like $1.2 million. If the Packers move on from him before setting the final 53, the dead cap's like $167,000. So it makes sense why they brought Dillon back. Once Jones move on, you get a veteran, someone who's experienced, who knows the offense. We know that he's capable as a pass blocker, as a pass catcher, two elements outside of just being a ball carrier that we know are really important to Matt LaFleur in this offense. And from a cap perspective, there's really no financial commitment on the Packers end whatsoever. So bringing Dillon back makes sense. And then coupling that with Josh Jacobs, it gives them kind of that thunder in the backfield. Like I said, I think it's a bit happenstance as well. And then even looking at like Emmanuel Wilson, I think he's listed at like 5'11", 226. So again, a bigger back. But to your point, Jacob, I do think that they'll look to swing the pendulum in the other direction a little bit in the draft, like a Jalen Wright, to someone I really like and think would be a really good fit for the Packers. But they have 5 picks in the top 100. I would be absolutely shocked if not one of them goes towards the running back position, because all we know right now is that Josh Jacobs is going to be on the roster come week 1. We'll see about A.J. Dillon. I'm sure they're hopeful that Emmanuel Wilson could step up and maybe earn that running back 2 role. But again, that's not something you're going to bank on over the course of this offseason. And so adding that running back position, I think bringing that different play style, different body style, different element to the offense is important to have. I think Matt LaFleur likes having that. I mean, look at how they've built out the receiver room, for example. We all know all those guys are playmakers, but man, all of them are just almost completely different skill sets as well. And so I would guess that they would want that to translate over to the running back position as well. So I do think they'll look for a little bit different style. Gutekunst did say at the combine that, he wants to have that bigger back on the roster. And so I guess where the question for that lies for me is, if they were to move on from A.J. Dillon, does Josh Jacobs kind of check that box for him? Again, he's not the Dillon size, but he's that physical runner. Is that kind of what he's more so hoping for? That's my guess. And so I do think that they'll look for, again, that different style, just to bring the versatility to complement Jacobs and just to give Matt LaFleur options in terms of how he builds out the game plan and what he asks the running backs to do.
Definitely. Tim, what do you got, man?
Paul, thanks for joining us. I actually checked out that article too. Good work.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Kind of inspired a a question that I had about the offensive line.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what you think about this O-line group, as it stands now with this type of backfield that we have. And, what are your thoughts about who, Goody might be targeting on the offensive line in the draft?
So even, they got Xavier McKinney at safety, but that's still a big position to address. Linebacker is still, wide open. Right now we know it's going to be Quay Walker. Looks like Isaiah McDuffie's going to have a huge role as well, but who's that third linebacker? However, even with those unknowns, my priority number one right now, if I'm the Packers, is the offensive line. I was on Pack-A-Day with Andy earlier this week, and I said, we know this Packers offense should be good in 2024, but their ceiling is going to be determined by the play of the offensive line. And I think, look at last season, there was a multitude of things going wrong in that first half that contributed to just the chaos that Jordan Love and the offense was experiencing. But a big, big part of it was the offensive line. The protection was inconsistent. There was no run game to lean on. It's not a coincidence that when Aaron Jones came back, the offensive line started to play better, that the passing game took off as well. I mean, that just opened so much for the offense. I remember sitting in the media auditorium in week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, during that really tough stretch. And, Matt LaFleur kept going back to, it's tough to get going when you're living in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10. The defense has the complete advantage throughout that. The pass rush can pin its ears back. They don't have to worry about the run. Get after the quarterback. Coverage. When you're in 3rd and longs, there's really only so many routes you can run, as a receiver. There's only so many things that can be dialed up as a play caller. So the defense, of course, has the advantage in that regard. So for everything for this offense, for me, again, in terms of what their ceiling is, starts up front. And a big contributor last season to that turnaround and play from the offensive line was competition. Ask LaFleur, ask Luke Butkus, ask Adam Stenovich. They point to the competition at left tackle and right guard that started, I think it was week 9 last season against the Rams, in terms of not just elevating the play of those two positions, but they believe it elevated the competition of the entire line. And this group was playing like one of the best units, pass pro, run blocking at the end of the season. And look at what this offense was doing. So fast forward to this season, this offseason right now, looking ahead to summer, like it's completely possible that their starting 5 is already on the roster with Walker at left tackle and Sean Ryan at right guard. And on paper, like that should be a pretty good week 1 offensive line unit. Like if they go into week 1 and that's the group after how things play out over the summer and those spots are earned, like maybe a little unknown because Walker's still a little bit inexperienced. Ryan's still a little bit, inexperienced, younger as well, but you would feel pretty good about that. But in order to get to that point, there has to be competition. And right now there really isn't any on this roster. Rasheed Walker, from the Packers perspective, I'm sure they're hopeful Luke Tenuta, Caleb Jones can provide some competition for Rasheed Walker. They're on that developmental Josh Nijman path. It was Nijman's 3rd season when he's got his first snaps filling in. I think it was filling in for an injured Billy Turner against the San Francisco 49ers, if I recall. And these guys are entering their 3rd season now. So again, that's the hope. But if you're a GM, you're not banking on that. You're not like, oh, we got these guys to come in here and compete and push Walker. We don't know if that's going to happen. So you have to address left tackle. The right guard position, it's Sean Ryan and Royce Newman. Like that's it. And there's some still decent cap savings available, like $2.5-3 million if the Packers were to move on from Royce Newman. And just given how barren the interior offensive line position is right now, like I don't think that's going to happen. They need bodies, and Newman at least provides you with experience. But Sean Ryan, he elevated his play over the second half of the season, went from playing 1 or 2 series a game to a 50-50 split those last couple with John Runyon. But I think it was before week 18 or just before the playoff game, like Adam Stenovich was point blank about it. He's like, he's made strides, but he's got a long ways to go, specifically in pass protection, if he's going to be a consistent starter in the NFL. So again, there needs to be competition there for him as well. And even looking at center, there is not a backup center on the roster for Josh Myers. And I'm going to guess that they would like to find some competition for him this summer as well to push him. Now, I will say, because I know Myers' up and down play takes a lot of heat, and understandably so. But where I will point out is where I know the coaching staff, Jordan Love, where they really, really value him is his leadership in the locker room within that offensive line room. It's something Adam Stenovich talked about. And Myers' ability pre-snap to set protections, to communicate the protections, to get all the blockers' responsibilities, and they know what they're supposed to do and on the same page. Those are two areas that we don't always hear about, don't always see show up. But those are two areas where Josh Myers, and of course for the center, it's really important. Those are two areas where he's really, really impactful. So again, those are just three spots, boom, right there, that we know that they, at a minimum, have to get depth, have to add competition. And I don't remember what article I wrote this in, but last summer, I think it was like just before college football, some type of preview, of like some players to watch or positions in need for the Packers next offseason, just projecting out. And I wrote in there, my guess right now as of August was they're going to draft an offensive lineman. I think I said a tackle in round 1. In February, I almost pulled back on that and almost went with like cornerback or maybe even safety, but I said, nope, I'm sticking to it, offensive line. And now I'm feeling even more confident in that prediction that that's what they're going to address in round 1. And I mean, two names that jump out to me, Amarius Mims from Georgia, offensive tackle. And this is not a sexy pick whatsoever, but I love Graham Barton. I mean, just look at any one of the interior positions, that just feels like an absolute, like, you got a dude for the next 8 to 10 years. Like, that right off. That's what that pick feels like to me. And to be able to have him could compete at center, where he started his career at Duke, could compete with Sean Ryan at right guard if needed. So I would love that pick.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here, Paul.
Yeah, I can tell. I'm with the right people.
I was waiting for
we just needed the confirmation, Paul.
I was waiting for this right here, Paul.
Yeah.
I was too busy taking my notes.
Right. Let's see, Emilio, what do you got for Paul, man?
So I guess kind of just piggybacking off, and again, thank you, Paul, for your time, man. Piggybacking off what Jacob and Tim were kind of saying. So you kind of went over the O-line there, tackle, guard, center. We're kind of, maybe approach the depth there. Do you think that Matt needs anything else to, satisfy his offense, specifically in the tight end room? I guess we have, Musgrave and Kraft, and we have Davis, right? But is he looking to go into 13 a little bit more successfully, or maybe kind of an H-back look or something along those lines?
Yeah, great question. Tight end is exactly where I was going to go. I go through my free agency predictions, and I thought one of my predictions was that Davis was going to come back. One, there's the special teams ability that he brings. Rich Bisaccia, when he got injured last summer, said it felt like they lost their right hand. Like that tells you everything right there about what Davis brings to the special teams unit. But again, competition at the NFL Combine, Brian Gutekunst answered a number of questions this way, referring to the competition on the offensive side of the ball being so crucial to the developmental growth that we saw that unit experience over the course of the season. And I think where Davis in the tight end room can provide that is with Ben Sims as that, primarily blocking tight end. And I think that's where he has the opportunity to push him. Doesn't mean he's going to be better than him. Doesn't mean he's going to make the roster, but right. Last season when Davis saw some offensive snaps, or 2022 now it was, that's primarily what he was asked to do. So I think he can elevate it in that capacity. And then like you brought up, the H-back role is something it's a role that's going to have to get filled on this Packers team. It's a part of the Matt LaFleur offense. It's not a huge part. I think by the end of the year, DeGore was getting maybe 15-ish, 20-ish snaps a game or so, about a third of the offensive snaps. But it's an important role, that versatile chess piece that can be primarily used as a blocker, can be utilized in the passing game, can move around the formation. We hear Matt LaFleur more so when he started out in Green Bay talk about the illusion of complexity, keeping defenses off balance. In short, what he means by that is running a wide variety of plays from just a few personnel packages. So defenses can't substitute. You're able to generate mismatches. And then running like plays concepts that build off each other as the game goes on. So that's the fourth quarter, you might be lined up one way that the defense saw in the second quarter, and they're starting to think, oh, here's what's coming. And the play may even start out looking like that. The motion's the same, the initial steps of the receivers, the tight ends look the same, but then it ends up completely different. And in order to accomplish that, you need versatility within your offense. And that's what that H-back provides, as well as, like I mentioned, that additional blocking help. And I do think Tyler Davis, I wouldn't be surprised to see them experiment with him in that role because, again, he's athletic. and blocking is what, again, limited sample size, but it's what he's been asked to do with the Packers in practice and in his relatively limited opportunities when on the field. So that role is going to have to get filled. Maybe it's Tyler Davis. Henry Pearson is on the roster as well. He was undrafted rookie last year at Appalachian State, was listed as a fullback, was a tight end in college, and we saw very small sample size of him, but in the limited training camp snaps we saw, showed he was someone who could impact the passing game. He was always working out with Josiah DeGora on the side in that, fullback specific role with the blocking. So those are two guys that I think could fill that role that are on the roster. I wouldn't be surprised if, whether it's an undrafted rookie or if there's someone, in that 6th, 7th round that catches Brian Gutekunst's eye to bring in just to add some competition. But that's really the big spot right now, along with kind of what we talked about at running back. They got to figure out who running back 2 is going to be, but that's a bit of an under the radar one where they're going to have to add to that room because that is a role that has to be filled. It's just not the biggest one. And then when it comes to the receiver position, while we're talking about offense, they don't have to add to that room, obviously, but I don't think they're going to stop themselves either if the right player is available. They're in a luxury position right now. But if the right guy's there to help elevate the competition, and we talk about how it feels like each of the guys they have fills a different role. Like if they had kind of that power forward type receiver in this offense, again, it's just another element, another, dynamic piece for Matt LaFleur to lean on and utilize in a variety of ways.
You're muted, Clayton.
Yeah,
I was wondering if that was me.
I thought it.
Everyone thought it was them.
That was rough.
In the sign language. I was going to say, you mentioned power forward. Brandy Lewis in the chat said wide receiver Johnny Wilson, Florida State, can be either a wide receiver or a tight end. New draft crush, LOL. That is a big fellow right there. When you say power forward, man, being able to bring back the bully slot, I think they were looking to do that with Alan Lazard there for a while. Obviously, didn't get you where you wanted to go, but just an interesting take there for sure. And last question, Paul. This comes in from Donald Krieger, says, ask Paul to take his guess for pick at 25, putting you on the clock.
We had to get it.
If you had to guess, who would it be at 25?
I'm gonna bail out. I'm gonna go Graham Barton. That's the pick I'm gonna go with. I go back and forth. The big reason I go back and forth and hesitant on it is I think you could, one, interior offensive line. I think, Elton Jenkins is the earliest that the Packers have gone with that type of position group in the draft, which is 2nd round, not terribly far off from back end of round 1. But in a loaded cornerback class, loaded offensive tackle class, those might be the best players available for the Packers or premier positions in the NFL. So I'm a little hesitant to say it, but we're gonna try to speak it into existence right now. So that's what I'm gonna roll with.
There you go. Got it. Well, we're glad you dropped in, Paul. You were the man. Would love to have you back next Thursday if nothing pops up, and we'll talk some defense, man, because we got some nuggets here, and it's just so good to talk to you, friend. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thank you guys as always. Take care.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find him on X at Paul_Bretl, and he also writes for PackersWire.com. Got a bunch of articles out that I was just combing through today. Make sure you check him out. So thanks again, Paul. Appreciate you, buddy.
Guys.
Appreciate it, Paul.
All right. So thought we'd give you guys a little treat here tonight and get someone in here that knows what the heck they're talking about. So there you go. All right. That's what we did. Yeah, the chat was lit too, man. Appreciate everybody in the chat. That was absolutely awesome. So look, yeah, Jake Shavink right here. Adonai Mitchell, newest power forward. There you go. As soon as Paul said they might take a swing at wide receiver, Jake was over like that.
Yes.
Feeling the whole thing. What'd you guys think? What'd you think about that, Tim, Jacob? What'd you come away with there, man?
Oh, I love it. I love that he's all about Graham Barton. He mentioned Amarius Mims, another guy that we've done a little bit of deep diving on, and seems to agree with the sentiment that, and this is me being the Mr. Defense, I understand the needs we have, but this whole line, we got to shore it up for sure. And, Paul's got his ear to the pulse there at 1265. So getting that perspective is just huge. I really wouldn't be shocked at all if we go O-line in the first round.
Yeah. What about you, Jake? What'd you come away with, man?
Yeah, the more I think about it rationally, the way that they're kind of structuring this, anytime that they have a position of need, like wide receiver, they went and drafted like 3 of them that one year when they needed those guards 4 or 5 years ago, they drafted like 3 of them that year. When they went and needed the quarterbacks the year they got Rodgers, they drafted 3 of them that year. Like, and I know that wasn't Goody, but even just most recently, it seems like when Goody needs a position, he'll take 2 or 3 dart throws at it. So when we need, I would argue we need 2 guards, a tackle at least, and maybe a center. It'd be cool to see him take, I don't know, within the first 4 picks, maybe 2 offensive linemen. Because that way, if we can hit on 2 of the 3, or if we can get 3 starters, I mean, think about it. That's another positional group that he doesn't have to pay for the next 2 to 3 years, maybe even longer. So,
yeah, definitely. When you look at that, what you're saying there within the first 4 picks, you got pick 25, 41, 58, 88. Yeah, I would be totally fine with taking a couple swings at O-line, man, for sure. You got to shore it up and create competition. I want to see them step away from this draft, Emilio, and go, okay, we've got someone that could potentially beat Josh Myers out for center, and we got us a starting right guard, man. I would be over the moon, especially lean on a little more inside zone run with Josh Jacobs this year and A.J. Dillon, get away from the stretch just a touch. That's music to my ears, Emilio. What do you think, man?
That's exactly it. And I like what, adding on to what Jacob said and what Paul was saying, even if you do bring in all that competition and they beat out, the starting 5, which wouldn't be terrible, right? If we went into the season with that starting 5, but it ended up beating him out, and we have cap savings on top of it. Right. So that's another great option too. Right. So there's so many different things to look at. We're looking at players. Each player gets a number. They can only go so high or so low. And, they're surrounded by other players. Goody's looking at money, numbers, talent, everything. It's wild that, that they're able to put it together and guess on the players, right? It's all just a guessing game, and we hope we knock it out.
Yeah. Just got to trust the board, work the trades. I think Goody's going to jump around a little bit. And, I don't know, man. Maybe this is the year he trades up significantly too, right? I think there's a chance that could happen as well. So we'll see how it all shakes out. I know here in the chat, got a couple things here. Doug Pointer says Barton makes so much sense. He really does. Barton to me kind of feels like Lucas Van Ness, where he kept popping up early, and then it was like 2 weeks out of the draft, his name kind of disappeared from the Packers, and then right before the draft again, he reemerged, right? That's what Graham Barton kind of feels like. The fan of me wants to say that's Jackson Powers Johnson, but it kind of feels like he may go just a touch above us, possibly. Graham Barton might be the guy, man. That versatility, the Packers met with him, all that stuff. I think he kind of checks all the boxes. So, yeah, I think it does make a lot of sense. Let's see here. Omer in the chat said 3 guards be no surprise to me. And remember, Goot's best work is picking his linemen rounds 4 to 7. It's a great point, man. We got Bakhtiari in the 4th round, right? What's that?
Walker.
Yeah. Tom, right?
Yep.
I mean, he got some stuff. Yeah. Now, listen, let's not kid ourselves and think that if Goot thought those guys were, absolute studs, they're taking Bach in the 1st round, right? That's a testament to the player. They took him later. He kind of developed into that great player. That's obviously how that unfolded. They're gonna draft him where they think they're, obviously grading out at. But I'll look at some of these names when we do our mock drafts. And I'm so proud of us for not doing a mock draft tonight. We're growing up so fast. You know what I mean?
We didn't do one this morning either.
That's what I'm talking about. But every time I do a mock draft now, I find myself going, "Oh yeah, that's easy. That's easy to get 3 players in the top 50 on my big board." That's exciting, man. That's really exciting. So, yeah. All right, we got a co-host in here tonight. Look at this. That's what I'm talking about. Man, he brought me a nutty buddy, boys. Come on.
Oh man. Another round of applause.
Yeah. She's going to wheel me down the street and I have to amputate my feet with diabetes too. All right. So that's just diabetes. Appreciate you, man.
Peyton looks about as happy as awesome in a dumpster.
We got to get that turned up, by the way. We got to get a louder version of it. So we're going to do that.
But they couldn't hear it on the mower.
Yeah, it's hard on the mower for sure. Yeah. So, yeah, just what I need. That's right, Paul. Paul says just what you need, man. Another chin. There you go. That's exactly right, Paul. Anything else you guys want to hit before we wrap up? We're at the 50-minute mark. We got some knowledge from Paul Bretl. We hit on the Eric Wilson news. We got the Keisean Nixon contract in. The stream didn't go down. What a night, boys. Have a night. Look at this.
You got a nutty buddy?
What's that?
I said you got a nutty buddy?
Hey, that right there, man. I'm telling you.
So,
You got anything else, Jacob?
I have one little fun fact that me and Tim found out this morning. So this morning, Tim and I and Carly went through the NFC North and just looked at their PFF lineups, looked at weaknesses, and tried to infer what they might, their draft needs may be, and tried to see if there's any tendencies that may match with ours. We did find that between the Packers, Chicago, Detroit, and Minnesota, all of us are looking for at least one, if not two, cornerbacks. So that could be a little interesting. There's a few a few teams that are looking for cornerbacks. We talked about how many offensive linemen and how many quarterbacks would go. It seems like that safety and cornerback would probably be the next biggest need for a lot of these teams. So there is going to be still a lot of mouths to feed in that aspect. So it'll be cool to see that work out. A lot of them need linebackers too. So linebackers and quarterbacks will be fighting for in the NFC North.
Yeah. Another one too is Keisean Nixon. Like the fact that he fell to us several times really surprises me. I just don't think it's going to happen on draft day. I hope it does, but if it does, I'll be over the moon if they can potentially pick what I think is the best defensive lineman in the draft. Because who was it here? Somebody made a great point in the chat. We got a bunch started here. I fell behind. Right here, Prince says Clark not getting restructured heading into the last contract year has me wondering if he will get a third contract. Not easy to do in Green Bay. It kind of feels like they're going to let Kenny probably test the market next year. That's what it feels like. And I don't ever think that's a bad thing. If the market is way out of your reach, then hey, it's just not in the cards to bring him back, right? And if you were to have someone like a Keisean Nixon or even a Byron Murphy, someone like that fall in your lap, you take him with that 25th pick, and then you still put yourself in a position to take someone like Christian Haynes in the second or whatever and sure up that right guard spot. That's another route I would be okay with. You just got to give kudos to Goody and Tim, you and I, man. We were upset about that 91st pick. I don't like the fact that we paid Aaron Rodgers all that guaranteed money, then traded him away the next year. And I think if Goody had it to do over again, he would have never gave Rodgers that contract. But man, you got to tip your cap to Goody, man. He's sitting here with a ton of draft capital. The cap is in a much better situation, and then obviously you're going to have to pay Jordan Love, which you guys remember when we broke that down? We said what, $44 million per, and now everybody's saying. I say everybody. Many of the Packer podcasters, like Wildy and the guys, they're going, it's not unrealistic to think that he can get over $50 million a year. That's coming like a freight train. And many people will say, don't pay him. Okay, you can do that, but you got to start over from square one. Yeah. And keep in mind, if you pay him now, in 3 years, he's going to be probably outside of the top 10 in quarterback pay because it's just going to keep resetting every year, right? Someone else is going to get a new deal. If you think he's the guy, man, you got to give him that contract for sure. So what do you guys think? Is there a number that you would say, nope, per year, not bringing him back?
No.
That's kind of where I'm at. And I think that's where Towser was at too. And Wildy wouldn't come out and say it, but you could tell he was like, he wanted to say, no, you got 9 good games from him, right? It's a valid argument. It is. But like Towser pointed out, those 9 good games, he was the best quarterback in the league during that 9-game stretch. You got a number you would put on it, Jacob, or you just like, hey, throw in the checkbook, man, let's get this over with?
I mean, within reason. If he's asking for, top tier money, then I think he deserves it. Like you said, that stretch, it wasn't just that he was the best in football. That was like up there in NFL stretches of all time greats, like 20 touchdowns, 1 interception, throwing across his body, like miracle throws, darts. I mean, you're talking some of the best. I mean, we kind of, I don't think we've really appreciated it for what it was. That was a stretch of some of the best football at the quarterback position you'll ever see ever. Like, it was insane.
It was wild. Yeah, I mean, it was honestly those last 9 games, and it was just 9 games, but it was Aaron Rodgers like numbers. It was pretty wild, man. It surprised the hell out of me. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh no, Nope, didn't. And I was the guy going, we got to give him a full year. I didn't expect that. That dude balled out. Professor Cake says, smash that like button so hard you break the left clicker on your mouse. Appreciate you, Professor Cakes. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, we got a ton of people in here on Twitter, too. If you guys would, you can click on my profile on Twitter, on X, and you'll see a YouTube link to our YouTube page. You can click on there and subscribe. A little bit easier interface to communicate with us in the chat on YouTube as well, if you guys want to do that. But appreciate everybody tuning in with us here this evening for sure. Let's see what else we had. There was one other thing here. Here we go. Joe G says, hey, Clay, are you guys planning to do a live draft podcast? We are going to do – it's going to be a fiesta in Emilio's world, all right? We're going to be having a fiesta. The plan is we're going to be live the entire draft, okay? Some of us may hop in and out, right, because it is a grind. Hopefully we can have everybody on for round 1. I think the plan is for Emilio to be in studio with me for rounds 2 and 3 on Friday night. And obviously Tim and Jacob will be on, right here on the stream as well. It's going to be a blast. We're going to try to make it very interactive. We're going to have the live picks. We're going to be tipping picks like crazy. So if you're one of those people that want to watch it and sip your whiskey and watch it on ESPN and go, okay, I don't want the pick to be tipped, you're going to hate our stream, because the second we got info, we're going to be throwing it up there and we're going to immediately get to the highlights. We're going to break his tape down. We're going to do all that stuff. We're going to make it a blast. If you guys are like me, you like to have the draft on in the background when you're watching the draft, typically. Well, with us, we're going to be talking Packers while all the other picks are being made and updating it. It's going to be really cool. So I'm excited about it. What are you laughing at? You do look like a possum in a dumpster down there.
I'm laughing at Chris.
What did he say?
He said, yeah, they will be, but with Emilio and Clayton together in the same room, it's going to go off the rails real quick.
It's going to be bad, because I know what's going to happen. Mandy's going to come up here like she did. Instead of throwing a nutty buddy at me, she's going to open that door and let these dogs in here, the German Shepherds. So you're going to see on Emilio's cam him getting mugged by Lincoln. And every chance I get, I am going to hit him with one of these right across the room. You know what I mean?
Right in the ear.
Right in the old ear hole. So, yeah. Brandy in here says, can you quickly review why the Bears still suck? No, but we do have this.
The Bears still suck.
I think the Bears suck because they cannot figure out the quarterback position. And it kind of goes right back to us and saying, you got to kind of throw the checkbook at Love. It is what it is. And here's the other thing. People don't want to hear it, but if a great quarterback falls to the Packers at 25, I'm telling you, they're not going to be above taking a quarterback if they've got a tier 1 quarterback. Now, some people will go, well, there's no way those top 3 guys are going to fall to them. I completely agree. But we don't know what the board looks like, right? And there's going to be situations where these quarterbacks are going to be on the board, and the question is it going to be the top player available, right? I remember, like it was yesterday, going, man, they took Aaron. I was excited about Aaron Rodgers just like I was Jordan Love, right, when they took him. But it's like, you don't need a quarterback right now. It's the best time to draft the quarterbacks when you don't need one. You never know what's going to happen, man. You never know what's going to happen.
That's right.
Jalen Hurts, right, from Philly. 2 years ago, he was untouchable. Last year, people were going, I don't know, man. He kind of sputtered a little bit, right? Very quickly, things can change. I don't think it's going to happen with Jordan Love because he's doing stuff that, I'm telling you, he blew me away last year. So I know I'm going to get hate for mentioning that quarterback position, but that's the way the Packers operate, man. How old is Love right now? Is he 24?
24.
Yeah. I don't see him using a first-round pick on a quarterback. But like I said, if one of these guys that they've got a fairly high grade on somehow, some way falls to him in the second or third, I could see it. I wouldn't be surprised. So everybody's depressed.
Contract, right?
What's that?
I said that'd switch up his contract then, right? If they really like this quarterback coming out, do you think they'd only sign him to like a 3-year deal instead of like what we want, like a 6 or a 7?
I don't think so. I think if Goody's seen what we've seen, and we know he did see what we've seen, I think you try to sign him to a very long contract. That's just me. That's how you can really maximize the opportunity to move that cap hit around.
Give him that Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chief contract. Spread that joker out over a decade or so.
Yep. I completely agree, man. So, all right, Jacob, you got anything else, bub?
No. Tomorrow, if you want to see, I think we agreed that I'm going to be doing a mock draft 3 rounds. I'm going to be the the Bears, and Tim's going to be the Lions. Carly is going to be the Packers. No, the Vikings, and then the chat is going to be the Packers. So I'm going to show you guys how the Bears are going to turn 4 draft picks into actually having a decent
into NFL 4 wins.
Into 4, pretty much, yeah, pretty much. That'd be fun though. I think it'll be a different way of looking at it that we haven't thought about. So tune in.
No, that's going to be awesome. And that's good content right there. Jake Shavink in the chat said Howie Roseman did that in Philly, taking Hurts in 2020, was called a lunatic for it. I'm telling you, man. It's just it's the way the NFL is for sure. Yeah. Let's see. Eric Sutherland says best place to eat in Nashville. Clayton, I'll be there in April. I'm deferring to Jacob. Where's the best spot in Nashville to eat, Jacob? Where was your spot when you were down there?
You got to try Hattie B's chicken. Hattie B's chicken.
Hattie B. We go way back with Hattie B, don't we?
Yeah.
Sponsor the show, Hattie B. There you go. All right. So, Emilio, you got anything else? You just been grinning the whole time, man. You're in a good mood.
Yeah, what are you looking at, you weirdo?
That's funny. Jacob's funny looking, and I'm excited, man. I'm happy we had Paul on. We got some information, and then we just goofed off for the rest of it. But yeah, like they said, it's probably going to go off the rails at the draft, but it'll be all right. We'll have a good time.
Absolutely. Tim, you got anything, bub?
No, just check us out tomorrow morning. Good morning, Lambeau. Doing it live. Continuing the breakdown of the NFC North. So I know there's some people out there that don't care what's going on with our rivals and their personnel, but we like to do the deep dives so we know what's going on for the draft. So check us out tomorrow.
I think I know who you're talking about, Tim.
You sure?
I think it's funny when people quote tweet you. Who cares? Well, obviously you cared enough to quote tweet it, so just saying. Anyway, it's funny how that works out, right? No, nobody cares. Let me comment on not caring. Right. So with that being said, we're out of here, guys. We'll see you in the morning for Good Morning Lambeau. I will not hop on and screw up the stream. All right. So you guys will get a smooth transition. And again, we are the rebels of YouTube. Like I said, we're in the doghouse right now. We'll see if we can get out of it. We may not, but we'll continue to do pods and we'll be on a platform somewhere. Emilio is going to launch his own platform. So there you go.
Yeah.
So what would you call it, Emilio? What would it be called?
I don't even know what I would call it. But I'd probably just call it Tigers Total Access and we just get them right over to it.
There you go. That'll work. All right. All right, guys, we're out of here. Appreciate everybody. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack, go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Yes, a YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here. And try to run this play in the alley.